Let's talk about the 2.1 banners. For the Acheron side, which obviously I'm going to be investing quite heavily into. I still haven't decided whether I'm going to go for E0 or E2, but regardless, we do have Gallagher, which is going to be obviously the new character. Now, since he's going to be a fire abundance with like a break effect niche, it's kind of interesting because, I mean, fire is not exactly the break that you typically want to go for, right? You obviously want to go for physical. Physical is obviously the best break. The fire break does have a nice initial multiplier of like a 2 times multiplier, but the extra damage, the dot damage that you get from the break, isn't as high as shock, wind shear, or bleed, for example. So I'm gonna have to see a little bit deeper into his kit because I don't know his eidolons off the top of my head. And if he does end up having like some interesting offensive capabilities, then he will be a nice addition to just like, you know, top off the damage of your team a little bit while also sustaining you, obviously with the can, with the beer. But as for the Pela is going to be a great option for a 4-star. Very nice that she's on the banner, obviously, because I mean you're going to want to use Acheron with Pela if you do use her. Honestly, even if you were to have an E2 and you only want to use one Nihility unit, which might decrease your stack generation for your ult, but let's just say you want to only have one, or let's just say that you want to have, you know, 2 Nihilities, and then instead of a healer, you want to put in a Harmony to make your team a little bit stronger or something along those lines, then the Eidolons for Pela aren't as necessary for Acheron. Obviously, like the first and the second one are very good because you get the energy per kill, and the second one I don't actually remember what it is exactly, but the fourth one is going to give you the ice res down, and the sixth one is just going to increase her damage a little bit. So as long as you have a couple of copies, like E2 minimum, then that's pretty much going to be all you need for Pela. The Dan Heng 4-star version, I like using Dan Heng, the 4-star, although as a character on the banner, quite unfortunate, so let's just hope that we only get these two, and if you want Dan Heng, good for you. Now, as for the Light Cone banner, this is a pretty good Light Cone banner, I must say. The subscribe for more, let's start with this one, because this one is probably the worst one out of these two, just because 48% even at S5 for skill and basic is okay, but then it's like you only get the extra bonus once you're at max, right? So if you're at max energy, then you get an extra 48%. So, depending on what characters it's going to go for, I mean, the hunt characters, I don't know which ones are really like skill based. You know, a lot of the hunts obviously want to have their ults deal damage. So this is going to be a miss, or you're gonna hope that you miss on this one. Post op is just wonderful because it increases the ult healing, but that one isn't the good part. The good part is the energy regen, because having energy regen on healers is just crazy. It's good on Huohuo, it's good on Bailu, it's good on everybody in my opinion. So post-op is going to be a wonderful, and then obviously as for good night and sleep well, that is going to be the best option. Even if you want to get her light cone, getting this is also great, just because once you have this at S5, then it can go on Welt, it can go on Kafka, it can go on Black Swan, you know, if you get enough effect hit rate for her. But good night and sleep well, finally we see a return to the light cone banner. So even if you don't end up getting the light cone, this is going to be a wonderful replacement option. As for the Aventurine banner, this one is also pretty good. Not the best, because I mean, we get so many free links that it's like you don't really want links on a banner. Luca is a great character, especially at E6. You want him at E6, so if you are pulling on Aventurine, getting enough Lucas to then make him go higher, I think also he's one of the free characters in the 4-star selector, will make it so if you do end up getting an E6 Luca, that is a wonderful option. Serval, for some reason, I still only have E1, so hopefully I get some Servals, but Serval is also really good. I've seen some runs recently of Serval, and she's, like, honestly destructive. Like, Jingliu is great, but this character is oddly strong. Although the Eidolons probably help. I don't even know what her Eidolons are because I haven't gotten any of them. So Serval's going to be a great, 4-star DPS option. Now, as for the Light Cone banner, this is a kind of bad Light Cone banner. I mean, Shared Feeling is the best one out of all of them, just because Shared Feeling is really good, especially if you have it at S5, then you can get that 4 energy to your entire team every time you skill. So if you are like a sustain who wants to use your skills a bunch, then it's a very good option, paired obviously with the healing bonus that you get. Now, Make the World Clamor is kind of garbage in my opinion. I mean, I think it's only really good on Argenti. Maybe there's some other characters that it's okay against. It's probably good for farming because when you enter battle, you get energy. But as for that, probably Breakfast or maybe even the other Year Edition one is probably better. So that's unfortunate. But as for this one, you are going to get at S5 a 16% defense bonus. Or no, maybe it's 32% defense bonus plus 8% for every character who has a shield. So let's say you have 4 characters with your shield. If you have Aventurine, and that means that you are going to get a 32% damage bonus to Aventurine and a pretty nice defense bonus as well. Although, if you want to use Aventurine with Acheron, then you do want to use Trend, obviously, because Trend is just going to be a wonderful way of getting your debuffs and increasing her ult time even further, right? So Trend is going to be a great option for Aventurine. Luocha, you know, I don't know how many people would go for Luocha if you have Aventurine on the second phase, but to each their own. And Jingliu is making her return. She is still so damn good. Probably one of the best characters to start playing with if you are a lower level, because crit ratio DPSs are like the bane of every free-to-play account in my opinion, because farming relics is so tough and getting good crit ratios on characters is so tough. But if you have Jingliu, not only do you get that 50% crit rate from the special transmigration state, but then also you get the crit damage traces in her own kit. So it's like your crit rate and crit damage are almost guaranteed to be good with Jingliu. So, you know, Jingliu still one of the best DPSs. I don't even know how she's going to fall off in the future. Maybe at some point she will, but for now, that's pretty much it. Now, I think that's all we got. So I'm excited for the banners, particularly Acheron's banner, obviously, because Acheron, I am going to splurge on her banner. What the hell? And yeah, pretty much that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Adios.